You know, they say that baby faces are harder to book than heels. While it is much easier in decades past when wrestling fans were just happy to cheer the goodies and boo the baddies, the late 90s saw a shift and cool heels took over the business. And with the rise of social media post-2011 and to an extent forum posting in the mid-2000s, shout out to the Smart Marks forum, which was my home ground for bitching about wrestling in 2005, fans are now more than happy to just let whatever company know that we think their babyface creative is utter shite. And in some of those cases, it ruined babyface runs. I'm Luke Owen, hailing from partsFUNknown, and these are 11 precise moments that wrestling fans turned on babyfaces. Number 11, Roman Reigns, WWE Royal Rumble 2015. It's pretty hard to believe nowadays, in an era when he can get away with his San Martino-esque championship run and an entrance that lasts longer than most prime ministers' careers, but people really didn't like Roman Reigns for a while. Most of the animosity towards Reigns can be chalked up to his superhero-level booking and a fundamental misunderstanding of what makes a person likable. The 2015 Royal Rumble is where things really started to turn south for the big tribal dog chief. He was popular in 2014, he won the Slammy for Superstar of the Year, on a fan vote. We all wanted him to win the 2014 Rumble. But oh, what a difference a year makes. Shortly after his legendary championship victory at the previous year's WrestleMania, Daniel Bryan was forced to vacate the title due to injury. After 8 months of speculation as to whether or not he would return to the ring, Bryan announced in January 2015 that he was cleared to return, just in time for the Rumble. Learning from their mistake the previous year, more on that later, WWE put Bryan in the match, only to have him eliminated early. The crowd immediately turned on the remaining participants and directed most of their ire towards eventual winner Roman Reigns. Not even a run-in from The Rock, who raised Reigns' arm in victory, could save this crowd, who continued booing as a confused Rock presumably wondered how and why his cousin had managed to fumble the family legacy so badly. Number 10, Liv Morgan, WWE SummerSlam 2022. Wrestling fans are a fickle bunch. Please let our favourites win, Papa, they say, begging bowls in hand. We'll be ever so appreciative and never ask for anything again. Okay, the promotion replies, but you'd better not immediately turn on them the second they win gold and go right back to complaining all the time. Perish the thought, they say, grubby little fingers crossed behind their treacherous little backs. Wouldn't even dream of it, governor. So after years of asking for Liv Morgan to be given a chance with the gold, WWE pulled the trigger at Money in the Bank 2022 when Morgan won the show's titular ladder match before cashing in a briefcase on SmackDown Women's Champion Ronda Rousey to begin her first reign with the big one. A series of uninspiring matches and some so-so character work saw fans begin to grow restless of Liv Morgan almost immediately, until later that month at SummerSlam she faced Ronda Rousey in a rematch for the title. Rousey dominated for the majority of the match before Morgan scored a lucky pin by rolling Rousey onto her back during an armbar. Worse than that, they did the old tap out spot while getting the pin finish, meaning in everyone's eyes except the referees, Liv had just lost. It was a bit of catch-22 booking from Triple H as he struggled to deal with the narrative remnants of the Vince era by trying to keep Rousey strong while not immediately cutting Morgan's first run short. But the crowd was already long gone, enthusiastically booing Morgan during an "oh shucks, I tried my best" promo on the following week's SmackDown. Number 9, Sammy Guevara and Tay Mello, AEW Dynamite March 23rd, 2022. You'd think wrestling promoters would have learned by now. Wrestling fans are not interested in romance. Well, unless you go by WWE's YouTube numbers, but those people are weird. We don't need love. We have stats and memorabilia and trivia about One Night Stand 2005. Did you know that JBL shot punched the Blue Meanie for realsies? Fans were already predisposed to not react well to Sammy Guevara and Tay Conte's relationship, as it came not long after Guevara very publicly proposed to his previous girlfriend at an AEW Dynamite taping just a few months earlier. Honestly, that's nobody's business but theirs, but you try telling wrestling fans to stay out of wrestlers' personal lives. Sammy and Tay came out on the March 23rd edition of AEW Dynamite to deliver a promo about Guevara's recent loss of the TNT title to Scorpio Sky. This promoted Sky's manager Dan Lambert to come out and brag about the win, kissing the belt as he did. And as he kissed it, Guevara and Conte revealed that they had slept together while wearing that belt, a fact Conte later backed up with photographic evidence on Twitter. It was an obnoxious bit of promo work from two people that were already on thin ice to begin with, with and started Tay and Sammy on the path to fully fledged heeldom. Number 8. Tetsuya Naito Power Struggle 2013. In 2013, Tetsuya Naito was being pushed as New Japan's next big thing. He just won the G1 Climax and was on his way to main eventing Wrestle Kingdom, New Japan's biggest show of the year, against Kazuchika Okada, one of its biggest stars. However, fan reaction to Naito was underwhelming to say the least, and there were worries that putting him in the top spot of the flagship event would undermine the show. At that year's Power Struggle pay-per-view, in which Naito defended his Never Openweight Championship and Wrestle Kingdom contract against Masato Tanaka, the crowd were completely heatless for what should have been a major bout. But when Naito emerged after the main event to stand face-to-face with Okada, you could legitimately hear a pin drop in the room. And that is not hyperbolic. It was deadly silent. The total lack of interest and clear push against Naito caused New Japan to worry and rethink the direction of Naito's character. This led to New Japan holding a fan vote for whether it would go ahead with the planned main event of Naito vs Okada or switch it with the planned semi-main event of Shinsuke Nakamura vs Hiroshi Tanahashi. When the results were announced, Naito and Okada had gotten only half of the votes Nakamura and Tanahashi had gotten, thus losing their main event spot. Sticks and stones can break my bones, but silence can kill a push dead. Number 7. Ronda Rousey WWE Survivor Series 2018. This is our first example of fans turning on a wrestler due to their support of another wrestler who wasn't even there that day. In 2018, Becky Lynch was on a hot streak, winning crowd support despite WWE's constant attempts to turn her heel. "You all hate me," Becky would say in her promos, to rapturous praise from the crowd who clearly loved her. "You were never there for me," she'd argue, as everyone chanted her name. At that year's Survivor Series, Lynch was supposed to face Ronda Rousey in a champion versus champion match, but was accidentally given a legit concussion from Nia Jax just a few days before. Charlotte Flair replaced Lynch, and to be fair, the two had a pretty fantastic little match. However, it ended in disqualification as Flair hit Rousey with a kendo stick and proceeded to administer a brutal and very heelish post-match beatdown. Despite this, the fans cheered Flair on, presumably seeing Charlotte as somehow the instrument of Lynch's will, taking down the coronated top women's star to make place for the ascendancy of the man. Number 6. The Rock, WWE WrestleMania X8, and also SummerSlam 2002. A rare instance of a match where the crowd turning on one of the performers actually elevated it. WrestleMania X8 saw Rock and Hogan, two icons, go toe-to-toe in an intergenerational dream match that we never actually thought we might get to see. What WWE hadn't accounted on, though, was that this WWF crowd was super happy to see Hulk Hogan back in a WWF ring, which had been missing from since the early 90s. So no matter how many trucks he ran The Rock over with, this crowd cheered Hogan like the conquering babyface and booed The Rock mercilessly, prompting the company to turn Hogan immediately babyface the following night on Raw. And it wouldn't be the only time in 2002 that the crowd turned on the Dwayne one, as SummerSlam 2002 saw them cheer heel Brock Lesnar as he dissembled The Rock like an errant deer carcass in the show's main event. I'd say it was a bad year for The Rock, but 2002 was also the year of the Scorpion King, launching Johnson's Hollywood career and putting him on the path to becoming one of the most successful film stars of all time. You know what they say, a year in the professional life of Dwayne The Rock Johnson is like pizza. Even when it's bad, it's still pretty good. Number 5. Lita, WWE Raw, April 18th, 2005. Lita vs Trish Stratus is one of the most iconic women's feuds in wrestling history and is part of the real reason women's wrestling enjoys the level of prestige it does today. However, in 2005, the feud almost ended up being derailed thanks to pretty personal circumstances that wrestling fans decided was their business. Lita dated Matt Hardy for 6 years between 1999 and 2005. In February of that year, it came out that Lita had actually been cheating on Hardy with Edge, a situation that would soon be worked into a wrestling angle and one of the worst booked wrestling returns of all time for Matt Hardy, but that's another list for another day. On the April 18th episode of Raw, Trish Stratus, the heel in the feud, came out to deliver a promo on the face Lita. Lita came out on crutches, but no amount of sympathetic props will stop a crowd of early 2000s wrestling fans from hurling sexist abuse. So that's exactly what they did. Trish tried her best to keep the segment on track by drawing back some of the heat on herself, but the fans would not forgive Lita. WWE, in one of their trademark classy moves, would bring the Edge-Lita relationship to television just a few weeks later, turning Lita heel in the process. Number 4. Cody Rhodes, AEW Revolution 2021. Adrenaline in my soul. Turns out no one likes Cody Rhodes. Believe it or not, people didn't turn on Cody because of how annoying that meme is when people get the syllable count wrong like I just did there. No, it's because he spent the final year of his AEW run being booked like the love child of Lex Luger and John Cena, and even then, they'd probably tell him to tone the America stuff down. In the lead up to Revolution 2021, Rhodes had just come off the back of a weird gender reveal segment and a self-indulgent celebrity feud with Shaquille kneel, so people were already starting to get a little tired of him. While Rhodes didn't receive the level of backlash he would for later stunts like that promo where he sold racism, the face of the Revolution ladder match was when things started to turn south for the former Stardust. Rhodes did that spot where a wrestler gets hurt and then hobbles to the back before re-emerging to bravely soldier on, and the crowd were not having any of it. He took a Canadian Destroyer on the ladder, and they still pelted Rhodes with boos like he just announced he was defecting to WWE. Number 3, Bayley, WWE Extreme Rules 2017. Before she wanted to speak to everybody's manager, Bayley was one of wrestling's most earnest baby faces, entering each match to an AI-generated Carly J. Repson song and dressing like Lisa Frank threw up on her, and it was awesome, and everyone loved Bayley in NXT because she was the best. I loved her so much. While Bayley's sincerity did get her over with NXT fans, the main roster crowd did not like the fact that she was a character that appealed to children and weird men like me in their 30s. This came to a head at Extreme Rules 2017 when the Hugger faced Alexa Bliss in a kendo stick on a pole match. During the match, Bayley got the better of Bliss, standing over her with the kendo stick ready to strike. Unfortunately, Bayley's instinct to be nice overrode her desire to do the main thing that wrestlers are supposed to do, win matches, and she choked, leaving Bliss an opening to recover and ultimately win. The booking made Bayley look weak and naive to the point that she wasn't even sympathetic anymore, and the fans sure let her know that. Number 2, WWE Hell in a Cell 2019. I mean, you all knew this one was coming, right? People like to point out that Hell in a Cell 2019 was the moment the Fiend gimmick died, and that is fair enough, but people forget that there were 2 casualties in that main event's lockbox of hard knocks, shocks, and bollocks. Seth Rollins' reputation didn't come out of the cell unscathed. It's not exactly Rollins' fault, but his role in the match seemed like it was to make it as boring as possible. First he hit a curb stomp, and then another, then another, and then another, then another, and another, stomping and stomping, and the Fiend kicked out of every single pinfall at one for a total of, I shit you not, 11 curb stomps. It doesn't matter how many good something is, if you have 11 of them in a row, you're going to get irritable. Apart from maybe Quality Street, because I've just eaten 11 of them while writing this script and I haven't thrown up yet. Rollins then used a chair, a ladder, a toolbox, a butcher, a baker, and a candlestick maker to first attack, then literally bury the Fiend under the world's most spiteful construction project. Seth Rollins' assault was so monotonous that even eventually the referee got bored and called for a DQ, forever tarnishing the legacy of the Cell as a feud-ending mega gimmick. Rollins' booking had been awful in the build-up to the match itself, but this was the icing on the cake. One of the most enduring images of the night is a dejected-looking Rollins walking to the back, knowing what just happened was an absolute disaster, past a sign that read, Seth Rollins is not cool. And number 1, joint number 1, Batista and Rey Mysterio WWE Royal Rumble 2014. The 2014 Royal Rumble. An event so poorly booked it made the crowd turn on not 1, not 7, but 2 fan favorites in the space of about 10 minutes. All because they had the audacity to not be Daniel Bryan, when we wanted both of them to be Daniel Bryan. The crowd also booed John Cena and Randy Orton earlier in the night because they also weren't Daniel Bryan. But remember, Road Dogg has told us this was the plan all along. No, it wasn't, Road Dogg, you carny motherfucker. No, it wasn't, and you know it wasn't. And if you're not down with that, I've got 2 words for you. You're full of shit, mates. Fans were eager to see Bryan in the Rumble, if not as its eventual winner, but at least as someone who put in a gutsy performance to help advance his reputation as the lovable underdog. However, Rey Mysterio emerged as the 30th entrant, thus eliminating any chance of Bryan participating in the match, and the mood in the arena turned sour as people started booing, ironically, the lovable masked underdog Rey Mysterio. Things just got worse from there as fans continued to boo the remaining participants. They did briefly pause to cheer Reigns over obvious winner Batista, but resumed jeering as the inevitable happened and Batista won the match, cementing his place in the main event of the show of shows. WWE were then forced to change their planned main event of Batista winning the title from former Evolution stablemate Randy Orton in the main event of WrestleMania 30 to Bryan picking up the belt instead. Unless of course you're Road Dogg and tell us it was the plan all along, even though Batista and Bryan have said that it wasn't. You're full of Road Dogg. So that's our list, and what a wonderful list it was. Please click the videos on screen now to check out other videos like this, subscribe and enable notifications. Jam that jam.